2017 QAS test. And the question reads, the figurative language in lines 33 through 35, but notwithstanding, guide us, serves mainly to suggest something. So here we're talking about this is a serves to type question. So what we need to do is we need to go back to the passage, we need to go back to the lines that are referenced, and just kind of ask ourselves, what is the purpose of either the language, the specific words that are being used, the line that is cited, and just ask ourselves, what is the meaning that these lines convey? So we go back to 33 through 35, and these read here. But notwithstanding this, we are wandering. Notwithstanding this, we are wandering on the great ocean of human affairs. I see no landmark to guide us. And so what we want to do is just kind of get a sense of the general context in which these sentences come. And here, this is where he's talking about how disorders have arisen in other parts of America, but not in Virginia. He's talking about people not giving up the power, right? The power of self-actualization within the government. And here he's using this language by saying, notwithstanding this, we are wandering in the great ocean of human affairs. There's no landmark to guide us. It goes on past these lines to say, we are running, we know not whither. Difference of opinion has gone to a degree of inflammatory resentment in different parts of the country, etc. So all these series of sentences here are all sort of conveying the fact that there's sort of no guidance for where we are at as a country, according to Henry. So there's no guidance, there's a lot of confusion, we're wandering, right? And there's no landmark to guide us. So we're going to expect our answer choice to have something to do with this confusion. So answer choice A says impatience, that these lines, these sentences serve to communicate impatience, which doesn't really match. If it were to be impatience, he would talk about how there's sort of this anxiety for a resolution, there's sort of this eagerness to come to some sort of conclusion, some sort of solution. That's not what we get. B says uncertainty. Uncertainty does match what we looked at already for the sentence. We already talked about how it does communicate confusion because we're wandering on this great ocean. There's no guide for us, so uncertainty is a pretty good answer choice. So we can keep that one. C says optimism, that these lines communicate optimism. That doesn't really match. If it was optimistic, he might be talking about how the sun is rising on the horizon. He might be talking about how there's some sort of solution or peace that's coming. But here he's just talking about the fact that there's no guidance. There's confusion, there's no direction, so we should eliminate C. Answer choice D says indignation, which is sort of like outrage. Usually it's sort of like a moral outrage, and this might make sense if you were talking about how upset people are getting about the current state of political affairs, and maybe using some kind of imagery about eruption or how there's this pressure that's building. There's an indignation, but that's not what we get. Instead, the imagery that we get is wandering on this great ocean, a little bit lost, no guidance, so that's going to communicate B, uncertainty. So answer choice B is our correct answer for question 34.